name is Dr. Melissa McCrory Hatcher. I have my PhD in English, specializing in children's literature, and I post monthly videos about children's books and homeschooling. And today I'm going to share a really fun resource for you that I've been working really hard on, and I'm so excited to share. So I definitely consider us Charlotte Mason classical homeschoolers. We started the CC memory work when my son was 4. And he's 9 now, so we've been at this for 5 years. I have another video about our journey with CC, with and without a community. And I also have another video about what I think are the best morning basket resources to pair with the CC memory work. But today, I've got something a bit more elaborate. So I've really been looking for a reading plan that pairs with CC, but helps me get more truth, beauty, and goodness into my day. And this is what I have come up with. I have 36 weeks of scheduled reading for a 3-year span. And in my mind, I'm envisioning this as a gentle Charlotte Mason approach, probably for younger students. I'm thinking of back when we started with those 4, 5, and 6-year-olds. My daughter is 5 now, so I have her on the brain as I was creating this. I think also special needs students would really benefit from something a bit slower. I also really wanted this to be affordable. The vast majority of these resources you use for all 3 years, because we all need to be wise with our resources. So first up, for history, I wanted to map out Story of the World, which is our favorite in our house. If you're working with teeny tinies, don't forget, because it's about 1 chapter a week. If that feels long, and it's got some natural breaks in it, but you can see, that's 6 to 8 pages. If that feels really long to you to read in one sitting, obviously you can break it up. Another great strategy that a lot of families love is the audiobook version of this. You can play it while you're in the car, when you're playing with Legos. But this would definitely be what I would start with your youngest learners. To pair with that, there are all kinds of free resources matching Story of the World with Usborne encyclopedias or Kingfisher encyclopedias for older kids. I don't love all of those resources. My favorite that we've used is A Child Through Time, particularly when you think about kindergartners, first graders. The great thing about this book is, again, it's from a child's perspective. So you're getting a lot of those Usborne-like illustrations and photographs and maps, but it's told in a story format for that one child. Some of them were real children, right? Leonidas. Some of them were real children, like Mozart, for example. It's got a running timeline along the bottom that builds so beautifully, and I just really think it's a wonderful addition. It also covers a couple parts of the world that Story of the World doesn't get into, so that's why I think it's a really nice companion as you're kind of going a few different places. So I think they build on each other really nicely. For science, remember, you're going to be doing a science experiment or demonstration, but hands-on science every single week. You're going to be doing 24 labs, which is way more than they do in any kind of traditional school setting. You're also going to be memorizing 24 science facts, more than 24 really, when you get into, all of the parts of the respiratory system, for example. So you're getting a really strong foundation in science. So the only thing I would do for science is read aloud the Sassafras Science Adventures. We love these books. They are so fun. We listened to them this year. I will say I don't recommend that because they are traveling all around the world, which is a wonderful companion to your geography studies as well. But I felt like the choices made by the audiobook creators kind of reeked of stereotypes, and I found the audiobooks a bit icky in parts. But the books themselves, the actual text, is wonderful and is more than enough for a kindergarten, first grade, second grader. Way more than enough. And your kids are going to love them. Also, with my Charlotte Mason background, I wanted to give you some nature study. One of our favorite resources for nature study read-alouds are these Christian Liberty Nature Readers. There are 6 volumes of this that I've mapped out for you throughout 3 years of CC. You can find old black and white copies of these very affordably. Very affordably. I got the newest edition because of the color pictures, and these are wonderful. If you have a precocious child who is a wonderful reader, they could read the little chapter themselves, and you just ask them the review questions at the end. Otherwise, you can read it out loud to them. But we love these books and have learned so much. And so this will be for your nature study throughout all 3 cycles. So between Sassafras and this and all the work you're doing at CC, you're getting an excellent science education. Now, one of the other things we really love about CC is all of the geography and map work. So to pair with that, I chose 2 books, Children Just Like Me and The Little Kid's First Big Book of the World. Now, this one is really simple. It's really simple. So if you have an older student, this isn't going to be enough information from you. You can see how large the text is. But because it's National Geographic, obviously the photography is excellent. The maps are excellent. There's all kinds of great discussion questions and explorer spotlights. There's Jane Goodall. They also, at the end of each chapter, each continent that you study, they give the kids a very specific activity. So this one is to observe animals the way Jane Goodall observed animals. And the great thing about these activities is it's nothing for you. You don't have to go get any supplies or do anything. But I really love this sweet, simple book, and I've got it all mapped out. To pair with that is my favorite, Children Just Like Me. And this shows real modern-day children all around the world. And they see how they sign their name. How do they say hello? What does their house look like? What kind of foods do they eat? What does their school look like? It's just a wonderful, sweet book. The only change I had to make to the CC Geography was, obviously I couldn't spend a year on the US. There are wonderful 50 states books you could get in addition to that. What I did is we did North America and South America when you're on cycle 3. So that's the only adjustment. Otherwise, when you're doing Africa in your CC memory work, you're going to be studying Africa, reading about Africa at home. Now to the beauty for poetry. I have scheduled the precious Random House Book of Poetry for Children. These are selected by the hilarious and adorable Jack Perletsky and illustrated by Arnold Lobel, who you might know from the Frog and Toad book. So the pictures should look very familiar if you've got little kids. How sweet. So I've got this mapped out for all 3 years. I also walk you through how to memorize 1 poem a semester. Because while the facts are wonderful, getting those beautiful sentence patterns and symbols and language into our kids' brains is just as important, if not more important. So I'm definitely excited for our poetry. There are some okay books on introducing the orchestra, but you do that every year at CC. You go over the parts of the orchestra. So to me, that felt really redundant, or kind of blah introductions to classical music that, again, I just thought were too broad for a little kid to really wrap their mind around. So I went with our family favorites, the Mike Venezia books. And I focused on the 3 composers that you will be focusing on in CC, but I mapped it throughout the year. I included a couple links for you to get even more information and to listen to a little bit of the composer's work. But honestly, with these hilarious sweet books and Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, whatever you have, that's plenty, more than enough. Speaking of music, I had to include hymn study and scripture memory. So again, I've got one book that you will use for all 3 years. And this book, I get more comments on my Instagram feed about this book than I do anything else on my feed. It is beautiful. This is my first hymnal. You can see it's well loved in our house, but the illustrations are just stunning. So at the beginning, because it is a hymn book, are the Psalms. There's also wonderful morning liturgies, morning prayers that you can incorporate. I have mapped out a psalm a semester for you to memorize as a family. I also have 4 hymns a year. There's also additional memory work, the Apostles' Creed, the Lord's Prayer. And again, if you've got an older child, it might be great to get each their own copy. I don't get anything from that. I just think they're that beautiful and my kids fight over them. So just as a heads up. I chose 4 hymns a year, tried to match them with the seasons, but again, a lot of us are year-round homeschoolers, so I didn't want to presume to know what season. And I tried to match them with the historical time period. So for example, you're going to sing A Mighty Fortress Is Our God in cycle 2 because you're going to be studying the Reformation in cycle 2. So that just made sense. Little things like that I tried to make work out as best I could. But this hymnal is just so sweet. It's so divine. So you're going to be singing your hymn. You're going to be memorizing scripture. You're going to be memorizing poetry. And of course, we have to have some beautiful art. So the last thing I wanted to share is our art history study, and this is the DK Children's Book of Art. I checked out every children's book on art in our library, and then some maybe. So this book I think is perfect because it breaks up so beautifully. There's global art. It shows you how to analyze a picture, how to look for themes and connections in pictures. But the great thing about this book is there's also a lot of modern art. I thought there was a really good balance between ancient art, whether that was sculpture, and really modern art. So that's something that I think is just beautiful. Another great thing about this book, there's no nudity. The only nude image is Michelangelo's David. And I have that marked in the reading plan for you. So if that's something you want to skip or Sharpie or whatever, that's up to you. But this book will be for all 3 years, which is so exciting. So this is just a really simple, beautiful way to add to CC with some beautiful living books that you can use every single year. So if you have any questions about this reading plan, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or email me. I'm happy to answer them, and I hope it really blesses your homeschool, makes your life a little bit easier. Thanks for listening, and please stay tuned to my channel for more book recommendations in the future.